If your job in an assumption question is to bridge the argument's logical gap, your job in a flaw question is simply to describe the gap. To untangle a flaw stimulus, jot down the conclusion and evidence, and use your scope shift analysis to identify the author's assumption. Then, turn that statement of the assumption into a description of the argument's flaw. With this argument, okay, this really is the last time you'll see it, I promise. A good flaw answer might be, the argument assumes, without warrant, that X is a poison. Or, the author overlooks the possibility that X is a non-poisonous substance. Or, the author introduces no evidence attesting to the fact that X is a poison. There are certain classic flaws that appear on the GMAT time and time again. Recognizing these flawed argument patterns will improve your efficiency. The most common GMAT flaw is the straightforward scope shift, where the evidence does not properly support the conclusion. Another classic flaw is the correlation-causation fallacy. The author introduces evidence showing that two things are happening together. From this, the author concludes that one is causing the other. It's also common for a critical reasoning stimulus to confuse actual numbers with information about percentages or ratios. Many GMAT arguments rely on inappropriate analogies. For instance, comparing two things that don't make logical sense to be compared. Another classic flaw is to overlook logical alternatives. And the last classic flaw you should know about involves inappropriate conflation or distinction of terms. Another word for conflation of terms is equivocation. When a word has multiple meanings and the author uses those different meanings incorrectly or interchangeably, there's a problem. But a GMAT argument might also try to make a false distinction between two words that mean the same thing. There might be two words, like bolster and support, that have the same meaning, but which the author attempts to treat as different concepts. Let's look at an example of a flaw question. Notice this phrasing in the question stem, which places the problem in the flaw category. Start, as always in the assumption family, by using keywords if possible to identify the conclusion and evidence. Here, the last sentence begins with the keyword so, indicating the conclusion. Skateboarding is safer than jogging. In support of this claim, the author says that the number of injuries incurred by joggers is more than the number of injuries incurred by skateboarders. Both the evidence and conclusion talk about skateboarding and jogging, so you might say there doesn't seem to be a scope shift. But there is. The evidence is a number claim, the number of injuries, and the conclusion is not, in fact, a number claim. It's a claim about safety. To determine whether something is safe or not, you need more than just the number of injuries. You need to know the number of participants in that activity as well. After all, if you were just concerned with the number of injuries, you'd consider lions to be very safe pets. The argument is flawed because it ignores the probability that jogging is a vastly more popular activity than skateboarding. With that insight, evaluate the answer choices. Answer choice C describes the problem perfectly. C is the correct answer. But let's check out the other ones briefly. Answer choice A makes an irrelevant comparison between professional and amateur skateboarders. The argument is about skateboarding in general, not about different kinds of skateboarding, so A is incorrect. Answer choice B is incorrect because the evidence explicitly states that more people are hurt while jogging than while skateboarding. Even if some people do engage in both activities, the conclusion is based on evidence about which activity they were doing when they were injured. It makes no difference whether there is any overlap between joggers and skateboarders. Simply put, the author never makes the assumption that answer choice B describes. The statement in answer choice D is outside the scope of the discussion in the stimulus. Activities other than jogging and skateboarding are irrelevant here. Answer choice D is incorrect. And answer choice E accuses the author of engaging in an ad hominem attack. But the author never attacks anybody's character, so answer choice E is wrong. The scope shift analysis you performed here was very similar to what you did when you worked on other question types from the argument family of critical reasoning questions. Keep practicing Kaplan's step-by-step method, and you should be able to master any of these questions.